job with the...
I'm already, thanks.
Phillip Dean. To understand Phillip Dean, you need to know who his dad is, Thomas Dean. Well, obviously he's his dad. He was a businessman. He manufactured sash doors, blinds in Milwaukee and Madison. He was an influential Republican in Madison in the early 1900s. I mean, early whatever. And he has actually a connection here in Wausau to George Schubenag's Sons and Sash Door Company.
So there you go.
Schubenag,
It's a hard one.
please.
Yep.
And with that, they were partners in Madison, and they made several sashes. So actually, the Thomas Dean, his factory had no name, so we'll just call it the Dean Factory, the Dean Mill. And the Dean Mill actually made things for the government mansion and the second Capitol, the first in Madison. And one of the mill's Chippendale tilt-top tables actually got rescued from the governor's office during the fire when the first one got burnt down. And now, that is Thomas Dean. So for Phillip Dean, he was born in 1856. His mom is Elizabeth Brockless, and his dad is Thomas Dean. We just talked about him. Phillip Dean received his education at UW-Madison, and he went to the all Madison from grade school and up. So full Madison education. And before he graduated from Madison, he worked in a blacksmith department as a carriage blacksmith. And he moved to Jefferson after graduating from college. He moved to Jefferson after college to work with his dad as he contracted and built the first Jefferson City Hall courthouse, the Jefferson Courthouse. But it was contracted under his dad. This is how he started within architect business. And after he was done in Jefferson, he moved to Appleton and he contracted to build the Appleton Courthouse. And after that, he did some contracts with his dad still, did random houses and such. And after that, he decided it was enough with contracting, and he went straight into architecture. And he started his own business, stayed in Appleton for a while, and he now moved in Wausau in 1900. With that, after 11 years in Wausau, he moved over to Madison with his kids, and he deemed the reason why he moved from Wausau to Madison because he wanted his kids to go to UW-Madison for the education. And after that, after he was in Madison, he was the Madison building commissioner. And he was such a good building commissioner. In the first year, they had 400 contracts. He approved 400 permits to build buildings in Madison. By his last year, he approved 1,500 contracts. So within a few years, 900, tripled?
What is math? Close to triple, more than triple.
But to put that in more account, he estimated it to be $4 million in his last year there in just building operations. To put it up to this time of money, it'll be $132 million in building operations today. So he was quite a building commissioner. But he wasn't just good at getting building permits approved. He was also a visionary. During his time as building commissioner, he wanted garages. He viewed garages to be the future. He viewed every single every single house should have a garage. He believed, because during the 1900s, no, not every single person had a car, but he believed in 10 years, everyone will have a car. So he started encouraging every single contractor and builder to start building garages with their houses for the people. So obviously he had the right vision there, as now almost every house has a car. And the other one is, he saw there was a housing shortage in Madison, and he pushed them to build more housing as the building contracts permits. So some of the buildings he built here in Wausau, as those stuff you might recognize, is the Pilot Building. That's the Shepherd and Schaller Building. the Wausau Gaslight and Coke building, that's the PAF building. And the Spencer Block, which is where Back When Cafe is today. So some other buildings he did around the state is the Nicollet Public School in Kaukauna. He did several buildings in Madison and Appleton. But we want to talk about the first building is 815. Oh, these are some architect styles he had done. We'll be talking about Queen Anne. We'll be talking about all of these actually today. So you get to learn which houses and buildings he did those with, and I'll explain why they're called that. So the first building is 815 Fulton Street. This is actually his own house. He designed his own house and he designed his own house. And this is a Queen Anne. You can see it's somewhat asymmetrical. And you look at the roof line here, it looks like a barn. And right here, there's some stained glass. That's beautiful stained glass there. And the bay windows. But if you look here, this is an Oriole window right here. You can see it sticks out a little bit with nothing holding there. So he built this house in 1903 as his house. So I wanted to highlight that first because I thought it was neat that he built his own home, designed his own home. And it is part of the East Hill District. The next building, well, we're going to head downtown, is the Wausau Gaslight one. And that one was built in 1901 as the neoclassical. You're going to see, we start here, what makes it neoclassical and such is the bottom here. It starts rough, and by the time it gets up to the top, it's smooth brick up there. So it changes texture over time. The other things to note are the pilasters. There's 6 pilasters here facing the 4th Street side. And there's 6, and then 4 facing the Jefferson Street side. Some history on this building is it was built for the company, the Wausau Gaslight Coke. Before I start with this, I just wanted to point out there's these beautiful designs on the first level floor here. If you look closely, there's over the windows, a nice little design there. But back to some history. It was built for the Wausau Gaslight Coke, and they were there until 1925. Later, it was used by the Marion County government in the 30s, and it was then also used for corporate offices for fiscars. And in the 1995, it is now the owners who have it now as the PFA, which is the Performing Arts Foundation. And as a side note, the Community Art Theater was there in the early 2000s and late 90s. And personal, I grew my first 6 lives was stuck in that office because of her, but so a little personal history there. And in the 30s, it was known as the Kreutzer Building. And in the 80s, it was the security building. And this is actually part of the downtown historical district. The next building is the Pilot Building. It's the Shepherd and Showered. Before we get here, you guys might remember if you were here last month, we talked about the Shepherd and Showered building. Well, actually, the building right here was done by Opel and Oppenheimer. And this part was done by Phillip Dean. So nice little cross connection there. And this one was built in 1901, and it's a commercial vernacular. And you can see because of the beautiful arches up there. And some history about it is it was built for the Wausau Pilot, the newspaper. They were there for a while, and it turned into several businesses over time. It was then also the J.C. Penney manager place. And in the 60s, it turned to Shepherd and Showered. Our next building will be the Spencer Block. There's actually 2 Spencer Blocks in Wausau. This Spencer Block is, I like to call it the original Spencer Block, because the other one is called the new Spencer Block. And that one is actually across the street. And that one is what is today Downtown Groceries. It had a fire a while ago, so it was altered. But this one is the Back When Cafe. And this one was designed by Phillip Dean. In 1904, it was a Talonite. To make it a Talonite, you can see the detail up here, the arches around the window, and the open windows right through here. You also can see there's a glass block there. Some history on it. It was before, it was back when. The Reiner brothers worked there. Had clothing stores. Elber's drugstore was there. And the 1990s, Back When Cafe bought it right here, through here. Our next building is we're going to talk about the Washington Square. Well, here's another one. We talked about this last month again. It was with Oboe and Oppenheimer. Phillip Dean also designed it. But the difference is Phillip Dean designed the first 2 floors. In 1936, Oboe and Oppenheimer came and added the 3rd floor. You can see they blended it really nicely. Oboe and Oppenheimer did a beautiful job blending it, and they added this. So originally, the Washington Square was actually 2 floors. And some other ones in the 60s and 80s, Johnson Hills was there. And they covered up this brickwork with some white paneling. And in the 80s, they tore off the white paneling and went back to the brickwork. Some architectural detail with it is the commercial vernacular also. And the pilasters right through there. Like I said, the there's W's up there, and the beautiful work up there, but that was Oboe. So our next building is the Kiefer. Did I say it right?
Kiefer.
Kiefer. The Kiefer Furniture Store. Currently, it is.
Limericks.
I know. I was just getting there.
Oh, sorry.
Is Limericks. We're going to see Bull the dog while you're having beer. It was built in 1905 with commercial vernacular. Some interesting details about this is this bay window up here. Hi, Patrick.
Hi there.
It's just like the teacher.
Well, so the original building here was for Kiefer Furniture Store. They're around until the 20s. Then the ladies' apparel came in. Our second lady, Secur's ladies' apparel was there. There was a beauty salon for a while. And by 1985, it lay vacant until 2005. So 20 years just empty. And the bridal and formal salon was there for a while. And how long were they there?
A few years, and then it became.
I feel like it's been vacant for a while before Limericks came back. Came there.
There was a secondhand shop there for a little while. I did not put that in there. Sorry.
I just feel like it laid empty for a while. Our next one. I couldn't get a current day picture because this one was burnt down in 2000. Some of you might remember this. I was a little bit too young. I was only 2 years old, so I don't remember it fully. And it's a Queen Anne, built in 1905. You can see it's asymmetrical. You also have the big window up here. You look at the windows there, a little arched. Well, it was the bridal shop. It was called the original name is called the Jacob Jensman Store. And it housed meat market and general store. For a while, there was also a motor shop in there. And credit was in there. And it became a bridal shop. The boutique bridal shop. It was then 2000 where they sold it to Back When Cafe. And Back When Cafe was planning to move in there. But there are some bad things that happened. There was a fire. I'm going to talk about the fire. They were expected to close, back when it was expected to close to expand into this building on the Tuesday. February 20th, that was the Sunday. So just 2 days late, 2 days before they were about to close the deal, this fire happened. They don't know how the fire happened, but they know it started in the basement. A little story about it is the firefighters showed up at 7:45 a.m. and 20 minutes later, the West Side fighters came. And by 11:45, they had to pull the firefighters out the building because it was too dangerous. Only casualties we had was the building and 2 fire hoses. And the 2 fire hoses is because 2 firefighters, the floor came out underneath them and they scrambled out and they left the hoses there. But this didn't stop back when to expand as now as the outside eating. You can see it kind of fun. You can see the fire, they had to hose it down, and I thought this one's kind of silly because the guy was just sitting there, but that's all the buildings in downtown Wausau. We're going to head back to the East Hill District, and we're going to talk about the Aiden Bardeen building. This one was built in 1901 as a colonial Georgian revival. And you can see it because it's symmetric. It's even all across. You may wonder why the photo is tilted. It's because it's on the hill. It was just hard to get a straight picture on the hill. Aiden Bardeen was a cigar manufacturer in the city. And his factory was actually nearby on 806 McClellan Street. So his house here, a little bit more architecture. You can see the 2 dormers, the windows here, the columns on the porch. And like I said, this one is also in the East Hill District. All these houses are in the East Hill District. Am I going too fast?
You're going a little fast.
Am I going too fast?
No. Oh, listen to them.
All right. Next one is Harry Heverson. His house was built in 1902 and was a colonial Georgian revival. It was also done by Phillip. Something to note is the window missing up here. You also can tell the pillars on the porch. And like I said, this was also in the East Hill District. Our next one is George Rich House. This is a Queen Anne, built in 1902. To make this Queen Anne, you can see there's a tower somewhat there, kind of budding out. Maybe it'll grow someday, but you can see kind of budding out there. It's asymmetrical. The hip roof, you can see the roof comes in like this. You can see the pediment right up there above the entry, and the bay windows over there. Oh, go back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it looks like they added a patio to here. I should have brought water.
Oh, would you like to drink a soda?
Oh, hey, RC. Next is the A.A Bock house. His full name is Alfred A. Bock. He was a building loan official, a real estate broker, and the city treasurer. They built his house in 1902 in the Queen Anne style. And to take a note, once again, this is also asymmetrical. The fish shingles, there's some fish scale shingles up here. You can't really see it on here, but if you go up to by the house, you can see fish shingles up there. This also has the pediment over the entry there. There's a bay window, but it's tucked behind the the bush. We can't really see it there. And to take a note, up here is by the top window is also another pediment above the window. Next is the H.E. Smith house. It was built in 1901, American Foursquare. The Foursquare came popular in the 20th century in response because of the business of Victorians and such. They're known for clean appearances, they're symmetrical, and they have very little ornamental. So they're just a box. They're very boxy. To note, this style also comes out of the work of Franklin Wright. You can see this house particular has a hip roof, dormers, that second story window there, and the entry columns. Our next house is the Scholfield house. This house was actually moved. Where did it start?
City Hall.
It started where the City Hall is, and now it's on Steuben Street. It was built in 1904 in the neoclassical style. And it was built for Margaret Scholfield. Margaret Scholfield was the daughter of William and Mary Scholfield, who the city of Scholfield was named after. They just dropped the L, the first L, for the city. I don't know why, but they dropped the first L for some reason. And what makes Margaret so important is she was one of the founders of the First Church of Christ of Scientists in Wausau. That currently where they are is the red church right across from the YMCA. So she was one of the founders. Well, let's talk about the house. Well, first of all, we can take a note. These massive pillars there in the front. The second floor balcony. And the pavement here is actually up here, not right here, so kind of different there. Oh, and it's not landmarked currently. So right now it can be freely altered or knocked down. Next is the Donald Plus house. This house will be our last house here in the Wausau area before we start venturing out to the other areas he did. Donald Plus house is actually located on Racky Street, and that is over in Schofield by Racky Point. But it's not originally from there. He was moved originally at Franklin Street. What's interesting is that location where it's at is right next to the church that Margaret Scholfield founded. So they were right next to each other. Well, in the 70s, they were told to move it or it'll be razed. Someone bought it, picked up, and it was moved. The church was the one that owned it, and they sent a mailer and told someone. But what makes Donald Plus, the Plus family, important is Donald Plus was a local pharmacist in the early Wausau. And after he died, his house got turned over to his sister Nellie, who gave $875,000 around the town. But what that would be $7 million today. So she donated $7 million around town. And this house is a colonial. A few things to note is these porches. They are originally uncovered, so they cover these porches up. And the other thing is, we're not fully sure, but we have been told there was a third floor to this building. So when they moved it, they chopped the third floor off and so we were told by the house owners, if you go inside, there's a door that leads to nowhere. And this is also not landmarked, but maybe it could be. So we're going to venture outside of Wausau. And we're going to Madison. This is the Richard T. Keeley residence. It was built in 1911, and this is also American Fuller Square. The house is clad in wood right here, wood clapboard. You can see there's brickwork right here. They say it's red, but I don't see the red in there. It looks brown to me. But you can also look at the pillars here. And it's hard to see in this picture, but there are dormers on the side to match with the one in the front. I couldn't find much history on who Richard is, sadly, but this house is in the a key part of the Mansion Hill district here in Madison, and it was also added to the National Register at the same year. Our next building.
Ooh, sorry.
The next building is the Dowling apartment. This is going to be a lot to talk about. The Dowling apartment. Who is Dowling? Well, that's William and Margaret Dowling. William was a community leader in Madison, and he was the chairing and local draft board, serving on the Madison Common Council for 7 years, 1910s to 1920s. Margaret, she was a busy woman, I'll tell you that. Let's see. She chaired the fundraising campaign to build Marshall Hall at Edgewood College. She also had fundraised for an addition to the St. Mary Hospital there. She also served on the board of Madison Catholic Association, the Madison Catholic Women's Club, the Wisconsin Council of Catholic Women, where she served as president. She also was appointed in 1934 by Governor Steuben, is a really hard German name there, to the committee to review highway safety and another investigate housing problems. But in 1936, Governor Phillip then appointed her to another survey looking at the state institutions. So she was quite busy. And because of that, this is why it's landmarked, because of her, and because it's also a prime example of the late 19th and early century apartment building. This was built in 1922 by Phillip Dean. In 1931, Flad and Moulton altered it. They altered the garage and janitor closet to make them into apartments, to help them make them into apartments. To note is the Dowling on the front there. If you look at from the aerial, top down from the airplane, the building will look like a squashed H. You know, you can look at the red brickwork here, and there's somewhat tower-like appearances right here. And like I said, the reason why it was landmarked is because of the unique architecture and because of her. And this building was cost $30,000 to build. That will be $1 million today to build. Next building is the John Kelly Store Building. This building is located on State Street in Madison. And it's a nice example of Spanish Mediterranean styles. It was built in 27. The reason why it's Spanish in that, you can see red tile up for there. The fancy brickwork here. And reach from there. If you look at that picture, you can see there were windows there for a while, but they removed them for some reason. But it's still a prime example for a Spanish revival. I mean, Spanish style. Now we're going to be in the Appleton. This is the Schaefer building. I had some trouble figuring out. I believe it has been knocked down for what is there today is the Appleton City Center East. So they knocked this down in the 70s to build a department store. But for this one, there's some interesting stuff and fun terms we can talk about. It was built in the 1880s by Phillip, so it's one of his first few things coming out of architect style, becoming an architect. It was part of Schaefer's Hardware. But if you look up here, that work up there, that is called diaper work. Just like the diapers you put on babies, it's just called diaper work. Kind of fun term to say there. This glass block, not original to the building, but also fun to look at. Our next building is the Columbus School. It's a Romanesque style. So take a look at it. It's also Queen Anne. So how we deem it as Romanesque and Queen Anne is the Queen Anne part is the asymmetrical and the steep roof line there and all those pillars. All those stuff over the windows right there. You also can look at the windows. Those are Queen Anne style. What makes it Romanesque is this square tower there. That square tower is the Romanesque one. And it was the last building in that style in the Appleton School District. Sadly, this year they voted to close it, but the Appleton School District has decided to keep it around for other uses. They just won't have the kids learning there anymore. Our last building, see, this is what I mean, did I go too fast? You guys can ask questions afterwards. Our last building is the Nicollet Public School. It's not a school anymore. They closed in 2008. But from 1891 to 2008, it was part of the public school system. This is also on Romanesque. You can see the big tower again. And this was put on the historical restoration in 1984. And when they
I said that's good.
So when they closed in 2008, it laid empty for many years. But because of the landmark in there, they couldn't knock it down. In 2019, so for 11 years it laid empty. In 2019, a developer came and bought it and planned on to take this and develop it for a small business hub. And the plan is to keep the 1891 style alive in it. So original, but now small business hubs. Any questions?
I have a question. You know the house on McIntyre, you showed the picture, it's Queen Anne, but it's a very high portico, right that one. Do you think there was a porch there once? Because it always looks so unbalanced. Or was that the way it started out?
Well, Queen Anne's are kind of unbalanced in themselves, but it's possible.
I drive by that every day and I always think, what was it like when it was first built? Maybe.
Where were you thinking there might be a porch?
Right here, like, first of all, these are very thin. You'd think they'd be colonnades, and then you'd think there'd be a porch running along
Like where you're,
here.
yeah.
That's very possible.
And then you wonder if
I'm gonna say that's a small porch for Queen
I
Anne.
should ask the people.
That's
who
highly
live there.
likely, but because those porches were made out of wood on almost all of the Queen Anne period homes, and especially on East Hill, they just haven't weathered to the present, and to replace like a full wraparound porch would be cost prohibitive for most people. So they typically just have a smaller penitent porch by the front door.
Well, you know what it's all about, maintenance.
I was gonna say, this porch is pretty small for Queen Anne. That's like a 1 by 1 there or
It's
something.
honestly difficult to find a Queen southwest, the base of the porch was masonry. And then they had something solid to rebuild upon.
That's true.
What makes the style definitive of Queen Anne?
Well, like I said, the asymmetric and the hip roof here. But asymmetric, you know,
The wraparound porch, the full porches are usually in there.
but
A tower of some sort or a partial tower. A really good example of a,
it's the Henry Miller house
exactly.
over on Grand Ave, the bright pink house. That's a really good example for
It's
a
got
Queen
like
Anne.
everything.
And in all honesty, by 1902, really elaborate Queen Anne was not in fashion, and it was also less expensive to build a home without all those wooden details.
Well, that's part of,
really an example of the excess of the lumber age when wood was.
that's probably why they built a small tower there, not a big one.
I'm curious about the architect himself, and living in Wausau, do you know where his offices were and what kind of a staff he worked with?
You know, I don't think we found that
I'm
particularly.
just curious, because he certainly was busy.
Yes. It wasn't quite as obvious as with up in Hammered Oval. That history was a little more.
You work downtown, I know that.
Yeah, it was downtown. I was just trying to think if I saw that.
Wait, there's the advertisements you sent me.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. He's looking.
Right, you had the question.
Yeah.
No, she can ask.
I'll answer while he's looking.
Okay.
I'll make up something.
Go back to the Schofield home on Steuben with the tall one? Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that one.
That one. That was moved from City Hall?
Yeah, well, before City Hall, to make way for City Hall. it
Okay,
was
now
tr-
what amazes me is the structure of that home and the size, because that, where it is now, that's
There's
a
a-
hill.
Yes, it is.
How in the world did they do that?
So we
In
lived-
1940, they had the means to do that?
You know,
That's
it's,
amazing.
Wausau,
We lived in that house,
You lived here?
yeah. And and there exists, I'm sure the Historical Society has it, I have it somewhere, photos of the house being moved by shooty movers.
Sure, shooting
Oh, sure,
movers.
that'd be.
They
Down
specialize in that.
McClellan onto Third. West on McClellan,
Yep.
north on Third. And it
Where's the
was-
McKinley block?
It was where City Hall is now, but just to correct, it was for employers of Wausau, for
Okay.
their
Right, at the
business,
time.
Sure.
that the house was,
Insurance.
that the house was
Yep.
moved. And the house has had significant enhancements on the back.
Okay.
As in like a new build kind of thing?
Yeah. And it was done before we lived there. But the architect was from Madison, someone who specializes in doing additions to historic structures.
Was it Flad Mountain? It might have been Flad Mountain.
I probably knew at one time. So 2 stories to the back, kitchen, master bedroom, and
I'll just say the McKinley block.
and a porch.
Did you have any established space for a backyard? Because it looks like the whole, yeah.
So if you walk through the backyard,
Okay,
you would wind up at the Frank Lloyd Wright house at the Manson
oh,
house.
Okay.
sure.
Oh,
If you, so kind
Sure.
of wrap your head around how the streets are both high and low.
Right, yeah,
That's where you would be on East Hill.
Okay,
You'd
sure,
be
East Hill,
Literally up
yes.
East Hill.
okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
no, that's,
His offices was at the McKinley block. I can't figure out where that is.
I believe that,
But that's the ad said McKinley block.
I think McKinley Block, if I remember right, and somebody can correct me, is where Vitality is now. It's kind of that area, just down from Yankee Bookstore. And I was just going to also mention quickly that it seems like in Wausau, they did a lot of moving of homes. Even back into the early, the 1800s, they were just like, oh, we'd like something else here.
You know, maybe the other thing though to mention about this house in particular is that it was very much influenced by the Columbian Exposition. And,
yeah.
and Wausauians who went to Chicago and saw classic revival architecture and then wanted to have, I mean, that was very much in vogue
My talk was like 30 minutes.
at the turn of the century.
Was that the one with the White City?
Correct. Devil
Okay.
in the White, well, if you read Devil in the White
Right,
City.
well, yeah, but just the White City idea. I think the CBA came out of that too. if I'm
Patrick?
right.
I just had a question. What are considered Beaux Arts elements of that home? I see the classical for sure, but I'm not noticing. I'm just wondering how they define that.
You know, I've seen it listed as neoclassical and slash Beaux Arts and also just straight up neoclassical. So
I think it might be the pillars.
that might be, but so I always include it personally, just.
I mean, it could be some interior details.
Yeah.
The living room, the stairway are really extraordinarily beautiful.
Wow.
Incredibly beautiful woodwork in that house.
Was the peak, was that a bedroom up there, or was that an attic?
It was an attic kind of playroom. It was-
Yeah, good that it's an attic.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a very, it has, it's a very beautiful interior.
Yeah, but you are right, Patrick. It mostly shows neoclassical on the outside, I would say. Thank you, Kathy.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Kevin.
And also, thank you for clarifying, it indeed was Employer Mutual, not City Hall at that time.
Sure.
Any other questions, comments? Does anybody else live in any of these houses?
815,
I do.
Phillip Dean's house.
Oh,
live in that.
really?
Oh, yeah?
And you, wait. Are
I
you-
live in 1301 Steuben.
Oh, you live there now?
Yeah.
Oh,
And that's mine.
Oh, no kidding.
So nice.
Yes.
It's a great house, though.
And we did some things to it that are, and if you look at old pictures of the, like that little cover over the side door wasn't there in the original, and that upstairs window was smaller in an old picture that I've seen of it, so changes were made.
okay. Well, you actually made a window larger?
We
Usually-
didn't, but it was done before us,
okay.
but like we
Didn't say you
attached some stained glass that it is not original to it,
Oh.
and it just can be taken off. It's not
Yeah.
interfering with the original
Okay.
glass that's there. But anyway, so, yeah, I liked it a lot.
It is a beautiful home, absolutely. I really like the gambrel roof up there, that's kind of cool.
I just wish I had the original blueprints, so I could see, because the people that lived there, like 2 owners before us, made all these changes to modernize it more in the living room, opening that up and changing the fireplace, and I would love to have seen what it looked like originally.
That would have been nice.
Yeah.
I know how that is. But, well, did you know it was Phillip Dean's house?
Yes.
I was gonna say, there's a sign there for Philip Dean right there.
Oh, is there?
It's one of our signs, I believe.
Well, good, I'm glad there's a sign. Thank you, Carl. You're not supposed to do that. Yes,
I was just going to mention that it's probably a couple of years ago now, they did a spring, I think it was, bus tour. It was called Houses That Moved.
oh, right.
Yeah, that was like 2
done
years
by
ago.
Jane.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was focusing on houses in Wausau that had
Would-
been moved to other locations.
Which would be the one on Steuben Street there, Margaret Schofield's house. Like I said, I'm always amazed how much they scooted around. Yeah.
I always heard that the 2 houses on Stark Street on 1000 block, that kind of border the football field, they were moved there from also where they moved to make Wausau Insurance.
Employers Mutual.
And I know, yeah, well, employers, excuse me. And the first one is quite elaborate, the second one isn't, but maybe they were moved from the other, where the park is or something now.
One that's right on the corner, that's yours.
The one right
Yeah,
on the
the one on the
corner isn't
corner.
much nicer.
Somebody commented to us, either on our Facebook or maybe they came up and talked to me, I can't remember now. But they said that, I think it was after the last talk, actually, that their house was a Schofield house as well that had been moved. Because, from that block. So it'd be interesting to go back and see what was all there.